Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope all are well. So today what I thought I'd do in the video is go through why we have set up in the particular markets that we have. So for those that don't know me, my name is Justin Maguire. I run a business called MCG Talent. I also run an e-learning company that helps recruitment entrepreneurs set up a business that gives them a great life by automating, offshoring and focusing on marketing. What I'm going to do today is really talk about one of the particular markets that we've opened up and had a great deal of success in, and that is Hong Kong. Aside from Hong Kong, we've also got a business set up in the UAE, in Saudi Arabia, and in Singapore. In a previous video, which you can go back and see on my YouTube channel, I talked about life in Singapore when I used to live there. What I thought I'd do today is just focus in on Hong Kong. Hong Kong as a market is something that people are, when I tell them about our portfolio of licenses in recruitment, they always go, well, Hong Kong, well, how's that doing? I mean, people are always quite intrigued by how the city's doing. Obviously, Hong Kong is seen as the gateway to China, but also it's a former British colony. It's seen as its role in Asia Pacific has sort of changed over the years, and really people are questioning now its relevance. Is it the dominant force that it once was? Has Singapore taken all its glory? What role does Hong Kong play in the whole Asia Pacific mix? To be fair, Hong Kong, I'd say recently has had a bit of an identity crisis, but from our business perspective, I think it's a great place to have a license. I think it's got a really bright future, and actually, when I compare it to, say, Singapore, it's actually quite easier to scale a business there, and it's actually a market that's regulated very well and gives you access to the entire wider region as well. So I'll go into this a bit more detail now and share with you some of the insights and what it is to opening up a business in Hong Kong. When did we open up in Hong Kong? We opened our entity up in 2016 in Hong Kong. Adam, my business partner, moved out there, and what we did is we leveraged our customer base that we had in Middle East, put that into Hong Kong, and a lot of the businesses that we'd signed and worked with in the Middle East, they gave us the opportunity to go and meet with them, and we then went and met with them over in Hong Kong. Once we got a good taste that there was an appetite for business there, we then went forward and opened up the business. To be honest with you, it wasn't a super complicated process. It was we got a company to help us with the whole business setup process. They all incorporated the business. We had to prove that because we opened up the business as a branch, we had to prove that we'd had a successful track record in a previous entity. But to be honest with you, you needed a good CV, you needed a good track record in what you did, and you needed to prove you had money in the account to open up. They made life pretty simple. It wasn't too expensive, and within 3 to 6 months, we had a regulated business and an entity, which we still had running to this day. So if you're thinking about whether to set up in Asia Pacific and looking at both Hong Kong and Singapore, which you probably are, those are the two big markets that people tend to look at, I would actually say don't overlook Hong Kong at all. I found it, we have a business in Singapore, so I can say this, I found it to be cheaper, quicker to get regulated in Hong Kong. There's very favorable tax laws in Hong Kong, and it's based on British common law still. So it's a really, really good market to grow a business in. Also, and this is a big difference between Hong Kong and Singapore, I'm just going to flag this from the start. Hong Kong is a lot more lenient when it comes to allowing expats into your business. So if you want to move staff internally, if you want to grow a business and you want to plant some people from your HQ office or into Hong Kong, they make life quite easy for you to do that. In Singapore, it's quite complicated because they really do favor Singapore for Singaporeans. So if you are setting up, take it from me, I found Hong Kong to be faster, easier to hire people into that market. And the accessibility of Hong Kong airport makes it just as good as well. So there you go. There's a little side note. I'm going to go through now through some different aspects of what you need to look at when you open up a business in Hong Kong. One thing about Hong Kong, particularly from a recruitment business perspective, is it does have quite an established recruitment, a series of recruitment businesses that are established within it. Okay, so it was, let's say Hong Kong was the main hub before really Singapore blossomed, I would say. So what you'll find is you've got quite a number of established recruitment businesses there, or you've got a number of businesses that have got a branch from Singapore over into Hong Kong. I found that when we did business, like our Asia Pacific business, about 50% of our revenue comes from Singapore and about 50% comes from Hong Kong. Really, we've got HQs in both areas. So the market is, it's competitive, but it's nothing like as competitive as a UK or a US market or even a Japanese market. There's still plenty of opportunity to grow there. You can build a business in Hong Kong that services the wider region. There's a huge talent pool to choose from. And what other thing you can look at in Hong Kong is you can choose locals, but there's also a big expatriate population. There's also a big population of Hong Kong permanent residents that you can choose from there. So our team in Hong Kong is made up of permanent residents, it's made up of nationals, and it's made up of people that are perhaps have come through an education visas, then transferred over to working visas. So there's lots of ways in which they make it easy for you to employ people in Hong Kong. It's a lot easier to get a permanent residency there. If you've been in Hong Kong for 7 years, you're entitled to become a Hong Kong permanent resident. Whereas when I look at Singapore, to become a permanent resident of Singapore, you have to go through quite an arduous application process. And there's no guarantee you'll ever get that, even after 10 or 15 years. Whereas Hong Kong, after 7 years, you become a permanent resident. What does that mean? It just means you've got a lot more people to choose from. You've got a lot more people in Hong Kong who aren't born in Hong Kong, but you can hire with extreme ease. In terms of the competition that you're going to face in Hong Kong, you really are. A lot of the businesses there are quite multicultural. But one thing I would always stress is don't just build a business that's like a like for like for your UK business, your Dubai business. Make sure you've got a solid understanding of the Cantonese, or you've got people working within your business who can speak Cantonese, can speak Mandarin, have a real sort of local knowledge and depth of understanding. One thing I've always noticed with our customers in Hong Kong is they want to know how many locals we've got working in the business. They want people who understand that there is what Hong Kong's all about. They want people that can understand the nuances, the cultural understanding. They just, they like talking and dealing with like-minded individuals. That's not to say they don't enjoy working expats, because I think they very much do, but I really think a blended office in Hong Kong works very well. What I've always learned we've opened up an international branch from our office is a mixture of experience from HQ combined with a local in-depth knowledge and understanding makes for a really, really solid team. In terms of business practices and some of the things you need to be aware of dealing with Hong Kong, cold calling is something that's very hard to do in Hong Kong. What people like to do is they like to be, I suppose, warmed up before you approach them. So a great way of doing that is always, I would introduce your brand. Make sure you've got a lot of marketing activity. Make sure you're very active on LinkedIn. Make sure you're showcasing the work that you'll do. Make sure that you're hosting events or reaching out to people in a way that isn't sell. The actual in-your-face aggressive sales tactics that perhaps work well in the UK or US markets, they don't transfer so well into Asia. You have to be a bit softer. You have to show people your credentials. You have to get to know someone first. You have to go out and meet them. Try and go and meet someone for a coffee. People will want to know why you want to meet them for a coffee. They will keep you at arm's length. So give value. Make sure your brand's becoming recognized. Show that you are a business that understands what's going on in the region. Show that you're a business that's quite committed to the region, and there's more chances people are going to go and meet you. I think a lot of people are very sort of suspicious of new businesses. They're quite suspicious of new entities. They're quite suspicious of the aggressive sales tactics. They don't wash too well. So make sure you are, like I said, make sure you're treading carefully. In terms of the type of talent that most businesses are looking for, one thing I've noticed in Hong Kong since 2016 to now is it used to be very much an expat business. We used to be about 50% of our searches that we would run in Hong Kong would be when they were looking for people from an international market. That's really significantly changed now. If you're going to be recruiting in Hong Kong, and if you're going to be recruiting in Singapore even, or the wider Asia Pacific region, they're quite localized markets. You're going to need language skills. You're going to need people that are going to be language skills, people that are going to understand the region, have good knowledge of understanding of how things operate and work. They don't send, only at the senior end are we really getting expat hires now. So it's a very localized market, unlike say a Dubai, which is very expat market. Be prepared for that in Hong Kong. Be prepared, you're going to need someone who's a Mandarin or a Cantonese speaker. And when you spec people in, when you're looking to open up a market, really focus in and lean in on that. That's going to serve you well. In terms of the talent pool available, look, it depends what market you're in. Finding recruiters, I found, is quite challenging in Hong Kong. There's not a lot of great recruiters. I would really recommend hiring young, training people up, turning them into your sort of company DNA. When it comes to the talent pool for our market sectors, being that marketing, communications, creative, actually I found it to be pretty solid, very good. It's a really good art scene there. There's a great deal of culture and history. There's a real appreciation for Hong Kong's history. There's a great deal of people that still want to move and live in Hong Kong. So I think when it comes to finding talent on the ground, it's quite candidate driven. It is quite competitive, but there is some really, really good talent there at all levels as well. What you'll find is interview processes, they tend to move quite quickly, which is one of the things I really enjoy about Hong Kong. And people tend to, want like 2 or 3 candidates per role. They don't seem to want a vast number of profiles. And interview processes, they tend to be quite thorough. They tend to be quite disciplined. Offers tend to be, they tend to stick quite, normally when you guide a client as to what a candidate wants. People in Hong Kong tend to stick to it. And also when it comes to payment terms and collecting cash, we've always found the Hong Kong market to be really good. It's not a market where we've had to chase a lot of overdue debts like we have in, say, in the Middle East market. So from that sense of managing cash flow, Hong Kong's really good for that. One thing we did when we opened up Hong Kong, and we still do today, is we've created a number of networking events. We put on events where we introduce what we do to the market. We create reports, we do salary surveys, we look at in-depth studies in the industry. The market seems to really enjoy that. There's not actually a lot of people doing it. So if you want to go into the market and show what you're about and what you're doing, it's not a hugely competitive sector in that market. There are also a number of really good, interesting sort of Hong Kong network associations. I would very much recommend joining the chambers of commerce for your country. I would very much recommending you join the societies that are set up for your different that have been set up for probably in the different sectors that you work in. Go to them, attend them. It's very easy to be networked in them. There's also a lot of entrepreneurs clubs that you should be a part of. Hong Kong's really good for expat societies and sports clubs as well. I found that when we've been out there, they're really great network grounds and stuff to get involved in. Also, the expat society there is very much linked to the local society, whereas in other markets, they're disconnected. This one in Hong Kong, I really felt it was very connected. So there's lots of ways you can network and get a good feel for the country. The food is tremendous, and make sure you go and take advantage of taking people out for a nice grub so you can have some lovely bowl of noodles out there as well. In terms of operational setup, we've always been in a co-working there. There's a really good supply of co-working spaces to choose from. There's WeWorks as well as some really well-priced international ones. I would say that real estate is very expensive in Hong Kong. I would definitely look to be, that's probably one of our biggest expenses when opening up an office there. So if you're going to go into the market, I think co-working is the way to go. I wouldn't commit yourself to a long-term contract within Hong Kong. One of the other things about Hong Kong, I would say, is it's still quite, getting banks set up, getting salaries paid. The banking process out there is still a little bit dated. So make sure that you're aware of that. They like papers still. They like stamps still. You end up posting stuff still. I think that's going to change in time, but it's quite an old established system that they've got there. Be aware of that. We've also used Hong Kong as a real gateway to China in terms of customers that we picked up in Shanghai, in Beijing, Shenzhen, and other markets. Shenzhen is a quick bullet train away. You're incredibly well connected into China there. So while you're in Hong Kong, make sure you make use of being able to client development into the wider China markets as well. But you'll definitely need a Mandarin speaker for that. The Asia Pacific market is just absolutely enormous. That's perhaps one of the things I underestimated when we opened up in 2016. There is so much potential into that market. Its sheer size is just eye-watering. I mean, there are 300 million people in Indonesia alone. That is the size of the entire Middle East market. There is such potential there. And I think if you're going to open up in Asia Pacific and you're going to do it properly, take advice from a mentor, take advice from someone that's been there, seen there, and done it. I say that because what I've learned from opening up there in 2016, I'm happy to share all that information with you. It's so much going on there. There's so many different nationalities, so many different cultural nuances at play. It's quite overwhelming, I'm not going to lie. So when you go into that market and you open up in somewhere like Hong Kong and you have it as your main hub, there's lots you've got to learn. It's quite expensive, but there's lots you can do to make sure your business absolutely dominates that sector. And I'd be more than happy to share all that information with you. It's actually one of the things I enjoy the most about our program is teaching people how to open up markets in the East. So do reach out and we can tell you how to speed up your process of opening up there and how you can become as profitable as quickly as possible.